I'm only taking one step at a time towards healing myself. I had to get out, I found a way out. No more living in pain or misery. It's all about protecting my energy. Keep the negative away from me, because I am just keeping my peace. Cut off everything that no longer was serving me, and I chose to start loving myself. I walk in my purpose, no looking back, I'm only going within. B.O. standing there, a better version of me. I must say that I'm proud of me. It's not about how you feel, I'm living proof that God is real. So let me show you how to heal. Damn it, I'm wearing it well, cause I came a long way. My journey isn't yet complete, that's what it look like to heal. Damn it, I'm wearing it well, I'm proud of myself. It's nothing to it, you can do it, all you gotta do is just fight through it. Creative soul, creative soul, creative soul. Just fight through it. Creative soul, creative soul, creative soul, creative soul, yeah, yeah.
Welcome to Pain to Purpose podcast, where we have open discussions to heal together as a community. Today is episode 6, and we're talking about father and daughter relationships. And we have today, our guest is Autumn. Welcome, Autumn.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on Creative Soul.
Thank you. I'm so grateful that you came onto the show. I think it's very important for us to talk about father and daughter relationships, because there's so many women that they don't grow up with the father, and they tend to look for love in the wrong places. And so that's why I wanted to have this series on the show. So welcome again.
Thank you. Absolutely.
You're welcome. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Once again, my name is Autumn. Born and raised in Las Vegas, Nevada. Whoop whoop. I currently now live in Virginia. Mother of 4 beautiful, amazing kids. This is my second marriage, been married twice. But yeah, just all around amazing girl, just like everybody else.
Good. That's good to hear. So can you give us like how you grew up? Did you grow up with your mother and your father?
So I actually grew up with my mother and my stepfather.
Okay.
So my biological father wasn't really present.
Okay.
He was present up until I was probably about 5 or 6 from memory.
Okay.
But my mother remarried when I was 5. And so my stepfather is like the man that raised me from the time I was 5 to the time I was about 16.
Okay. And so during that time, from 5 to 16, were there communication with your biological father?
No, not really. So my biological father was a minister. So I knew of him, knew who he was. At times he would, stop off at the church, and I'd be like, everyone would be like, "Oh, your dad's here," and it would be like, "Hey, how you doing?" Blah blah blah, and then wouldn't see him again.
So did you ever have a conversation with your mother or your father of why he wasn't in your life consistently?
No, actually, I did not get those answers until whew, I was probably my biological father and I have are trying to build a relationship now. So I did not get those answers that a lot of us don't get to ask our fathers because we don't get opportunities a lot of the times to try to rekindle the relationship if it had gone sour or if there was no communication. But I did get to ask those hard to answer questions, and the answer to those, and they were very honest, was one, he was young and I wasn't a priority. Women and drugs were a priority at the time.
Okay.
So that was the harsh reality, but I accepted it, and I accepted his honesty for him being honest and not just beating around the bush, or trying to place blame on my mom, or
Hmm.
oh well, it's hard for men in this society. No, he was honest with it, and he was like, I'm sorry, you just weren't a priority. Other things were on my mind at the time.
So do you feel like you've forgiven him because he held himself accountable?
Now I do. Now, if you would have asked me this probably 20 plus years ago,
Hmm.
I would have said like no, because he didn't care about me. Why should I care about him? Yeah. So back then, yeah, I wouldn't have been so forgiving. But you know, as you get older, you mature, you start to see that life isn't what you think it's all cracked up to be, and everybody deserves a second chance when it's warranted. So I decided to take that leap and get to know him, because I really, and still as I'm getting to know him, because this journey just started for he and I maybe a year ago. So
Okay.
I'm getting the opportunity to actually find out who he is for myself, not from my mom or my aunts or anyone else. Like, this is, he and I are trying to build some type of relationship together, because when he started, and it was kind of funny, it's like he wanted to let me talk to you, dad to woman type deal. And I'm like, that I've been married again, had kids, like that
Mhm.
conversation
You're
is
past
old
that.
and past that.
Okay, so you guys are now starting to build your relationship and it's been a year.
Yes, so it's been about a year, probably a little over a year now, and we're starting to get to know each other. I'm starting to get to know him. Um, so it's been going good so far, with the
Good.
transparency, because we're adults here. So, my thing
Mhm.
is there's no need for you to have to lie or make up
Mhm.
anything, or, you don't have to promise me anything. We're past that.
Right, right, right. Okay. So I want to ask you, do you feel like you struggled with anything as a young girl or as a teenager um, without having your biological father?
No.
Like,
And I wouldn't say I did,
mhm,
because my mother did made sure that I didn't miss out on anything. So my
okay.
stepfather, um, shoot, both of my stepfathers, because my mom remarried again, and I ended up having a totally different relationship with my other stepfather that I had with my first one. And I know that sounds a little strange. Yes, my mother has been married 3 times, and
There's
I
a lot of
developed,
people that's been married 3 times
right, and
and more.
I developed a different relationship. So my mother's last husband, I would actually say, even though I was an adult,
Hmm.
but he's the one that treated me more like a daughter than any father that I ever had.
Really?
Yes.
What was the difference?
With the stepfather that I had that raised me for most of my childhood,
Hmm.
to me, he was more so competing with my mom. Like, I'm going to be the cool parent. So you can tell me anything. I'll let you do whatever. You want to ditch school, I'll let you ditch school. I won't say anything to your mom. We're cool.
Oh,
But
okay.
whereas with her last husband, he gave me that father daughter attention that I needed. He sat
Okay.
down and he talked to me about men, even though I was already freshly married.
Mm-hmm.
He was giving me advice about men. This, don't get too upset because of this. Sweetheart, he's a man. Men think like this. How about this? Or he just took me in and he treated me more like a daughter. I saw him more as a father figure than any
Okay.
than any father that you would say that I'd had. He loved me more like a daughter. Um, it's the oh gosh, I'm trying to see how I can even explain it, but it's the feeling. You know the difference.
You
It's
feel
the
the love.
feeling. You feel the love. You get that. I never had that daddy girls feeling until I met and got to know him. He
Okay.
treated me like I was his world. And I'm not my mom's only child. I have a younger brother and sister that are very young, much younger than me, but he treated both me and my little sister like we were the apple of his eye.
Okay.
Like, no one can harm us. No one can come near. We were his girls. We were daddy's girls. Anything. He moved me out of my first apartment. He was there when I had my first daughter. Like, that is my daddy. Even though he's passed away and it hurts my heart, he's gone from this earth. But that's my daddy. Whenever anyone refers to my dad, everyone
Mhm.
knows that I pretty much refer to my mother's late husband.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I want to ask you as far as your biological father.
Yes.
Now, how does he feel about the relationship you built with your mom's husband?
He was upset about it at first because when we were beginning to develop our relationship, like, still now, I don't call him dad. It's kind of difficult to call him dad because I don't feel like he's earned that right yet. We're
So
getting
you
there.
call him by his name.
Yes, I call him by his
Okay.
first name. We're
Okay.
getting there. I did call him dad during Christmas when I called him, and he was shocked. But in the beginning, he it upset him because I called him by his first name, and I had to let him know, like, I'm sorry, but you weren't my dad. And so at this point in my life, that's a title that has to be earned, you
Yeah.
know. And he's, like I said, he's slowly getting there. And I don't know if it's from years of living and having to reconcile on his part or what have you, but he's learned to be patient with it,
Okay.
and
Well,
he
that's
had to
good.
learn to accept it, because at the end of the day, that was based off of a decision and a choice that you made, you know.
Right. Right.
But it's gotten better, we tried to have a relationship actually 20 years ago when he was married, but unfortunately that didn't work out. That went sour at the time.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And I hate to say it had a lot to do with a relationship that he was in at that time, but you know, you can't hold on to certain things. That's neither here nor there. And it did cause our relationship back then to go sour because I took it as, here we go again. You're choosing a woman over your
Over you.
own. But I had to also take a step back because at that time, I was a young woman myself. I was 22. And, I was like, well, from a woman to woman style, I wasn't a kid anymore. I was a
Mm-hmm.
kid trying to find my dad, a kid trying to make a relationship with this person that everybody's been telling me is my father. But
Mm-hmm.
it was almost like it was a little bit too little too late. Like now you're an adult. What are you looking for a daddy for?
Okay. So, with you building this relationship with him, does it affect your children, or is he trying to get to know the children?
He is as much as he can. He lives in Las Vegas,
Mm-hmm.
and at the time, I only at this present time I only have one kid in Las Vegas. So he's trying to build a relationship with that child, with well, which is not a child anymore, but he's an adult. So it's like he's trying to play catch up with not only one generation of a kid, but two, because he's got
Right.
children.
Right. Now, does the children look at your stepfather as their grandfather or grandpa?
They
Your
knew my mother's late husband
husband.
as
Okay.
their grandfather.
Okay.
Um,
Now, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say my stepfather, my mother's second husband that like
Hmm.
raised me.
Hmm.
My children do not know him because they divorced when I was like 17.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I think this is a good conversation because so many young girls and women will see this, and they will see that sometimes relationships can be mended.
Absolutely.
Um, they will also see that you not having your father around, someone else did step in. So some of the things that young girls would struggle with, you didn't have those struggles, which is great. I'm happy that you didn't have to go through that. The self love and because you had your mom's late husband to teach you all those things about men before you jumped
Oh, now
in to relationships.
some of it I did struggle with because at the end of the day, even though my mother tried, my you got to think my mother's late husband didn't step in until I was about 2021. So I was already married, close to no, I had already had my first child by that time. And I had already,
Okay.
had my feel a little bit with guys, not very experienced, but you're
Mhm.
just getting started. You're out of
Right.
high school for a few times. So in that aspect, when it came to me being a teenager, now that I feel like I might not have gone down the path that some girls did go on,
Mhm.
but I did find myself struggling with self-love, as you say, because you wonder if you're enough. And it's so crazy because my mother used to always ask me, like when I began to get interested in boys and I wanted to date boys, and I'm talking like around the age of between 13 and 15 or
Mhm.
13 and 16. And when I liked a boy or something and she didn't understand, and she would always say, am I not good enough for you? Why do you want to have a boyfriend right now? And to me, I was like, well, that's different. I want a different kind of attention. I want different kind of love. And I never knew that the attention that I was wanting was that daddy to sit you on his knee. And not to say that my stepfather didn't tell me he loved me, but it was different. It wasn't, and he, don't get me wrong, he never mistreated me or anything, but it just wasn't that connection. It wasn't connected to where I felt like my daddy would protect me. Well, I don't have to, do what you say, because my daddy will do that. My daddy will give me anything. Like, I never felt like I could rely on my daddy. I envied girls that could say, well, my daddy can do this, or my daddy this, or I envy girls. Even though I had a stepfather, I still envied it behind closed doors. I envied that. I wanted that. And I didn't get that feeling until I was about 21, 22.
Okay. So, how did you start your healing process? Was it just acknowledging that it was the past? Was it
Um, Actually, it was um my biological father. He did, and it took me a while to come around. He reached out from a to a family member and got my phone number, and he tried,
okay?
because I was bitter. I'm not gonna lie, I was still bitter over the falling out that we had in 2005, 2004,
Uh-huh.
2005. So in 2016, he reached out. No, 17, he started reaching out to me, and I really wouldn't take his phone call. Like, I don't have time for this, because I thought it was just going to be another facade. Like, or my thing was, though, you must not have like a woman in your life right now, and so now you want to mend ways with Autumn. I don't have time for it. So I would
Okay.
blow off his phone calls, wouldn't answer. It wasn't until um one of my family members on his side of the family passed away that was pretty young. And so I know this sounds a little bad, but the only reason why I started taking his phone calls and the relationship developed is because I was like, I know nothing about my side, my father's side of the family. I don't know what diseases might run on the side of the family,
Mm-hmm.
mental illness, none of that. And
That's
I said,
important.
and I have children now. I've
Mm-hmm.
been had children. I was like, it for my sake and for my kids' sake, I need to reach out to this man and ask questions. So I did have to humble myself, and I started taking his phone calls, and it just started with just asking questions. Like,
Okay.
you know, and like I said, simple questions, because a lot of stuff I didn't even know about my father. I really didn't. And so it was just starting out with simple questions like, okay, so I heard, you know, Aunt so and so passed away, and this is what they passed away from. Is this true? And, well, what did your mom and dad, suffer with? And it started to turn into us just talking and just having a conversation. And then he started to ask, is it okay if I call you tomorrow? Or do you mind calling me? And that's how it started out.
Okay. So I want to ask you before we end,
Mm-hmm.
if you could give advice to any young girl or woman that struggles with not having a father present in their life, what would you tell them?
I would tell them that it's okay. Even though having a father in your life is important, you're still going to be okay. It's not the end of the world if you don't know who your father is, because you're still going to make it. If you do know who he is and he's trying to make amends, I would say let humble yourself enough to start that relationship, because it just might heal you in the end. It just might heal you in the end, but it's still going to be okay regardless. Love yourself. That's where it starts. Is loving yourself, because no one can
Absolutely.
love you like you love yourself.
Absolutely.
And that's where it starts with loving yourself.
Okay. So I have one last question,
Yes,
but you have to answer it the purpose way.
the purpose way.
So if you could go anywhere with your father when you feel like it's totally mended and you guys can travel anywhere, um, as a father and daughter trip, where would you go?
Um, Ooh wee. If I had to, I would probably say, huh. It's on the top of my tongue. It's on the tip of my tongue, and I know where I want to say it's in Utah, but it's like a mission place. Oh goodness.
Okay.
Geez. Oh man, Moab.
Okay, so what's so important about that place?
I went there one time with him on a church trip. That's the
Okay.
I can remember us ever going on.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yes.
Okay. Well, Adam, I really appreciate you coming onto the show, being authentic and sharing your story. It takes a lot of courage to open up to the community and literally tell your story.
Thank you.
So thank you again. I hope to have you back on the show for future topics.
Yes.
Uh,
I love it.
um, so thank you so much. To my audience, remember that it's only pain until you discover your purpose and begin your healing process. Until next time, we'll see you next Monday. Bye.